Welcome to the Rich Dad Real Estate Show, where we talk about the good news and bad news of real estate, hosted by yours truly, Jaren Sustar. Today, I got a special guest on, one of my good buddies, Brian Luebben. He's an entrepreneur, investor, coach, author, left corporate America to travel and live the life of his dreams, all before the age of 30, which is crazy. I don't even know. Are you even 28 yet, Brian? You got a bunch of youth to you.
I'm 30 December 1st. We're recording this in November, so I'm about to be 30. But yeah, we accomplished a lot. But you said something very interesting, Jaren. You said that there's bad parts to real estate too. I thought it's all just perfection and passive income.
Hey, that's what some podcasts will tell you, and that's what some investors will tell you. But unfortunately, that's not the truth. There's a lot of headache that comes with it, but it can be worth it if you figure it out.
Love to talk about it, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. So guys, sit tight. We're going to be going for, what is it, Jaren, 30 minutes of value that we're going to give to the people?
We're going to give them as much value as possible within the next 30 to 45 minutes. So me and Brian have a little similar background to where we started in the working world at a uniform company. It was the same uniform company, and doing kind of grunt work. And then eventually got to where we both had a lot of success before 30. I'm older than him. I'm balding. I've gained weight. Brian's got great hair. He's in great shape. He'll get there one of these days. But I feel like it's very similar because I kind of sprinted and catapulted off of the job that I was in that I didn't really like to say, hold up, there's got to be more than just doing this every single day. And my wife and I were able to become millionaires by 29, multimillionaires by 30, and grow. And you've done the same thing. And so I'm excited for you to just – I'm going to open the floor, let you unpack that journey, because I know that it will be aspiring to all the listeners.
Absolutely, man. So first and foremost, thanks, guys, for having me on. I'm really excited to do this. This is, let's see, I think I've podcasted every single day for the last 2.5 years. So I think I've done probably about 1,000 podcasts. So hopefully I can add as much value to you guys as possible. We'll break this episode down into kind of 3 different sections that me and Jaren can break down and dissect so that you guys can have actionable takeaways, because the reason that you're listening to this podcast isn't to just hear a guy talk. You want some actionable stuff that you could take away and you guys can apply in your life, and then you leave a 5-star rating and review for the show, right? And Jaren, please and thank you.
Yes,
so,
thank you.
As you guys could tell, I am a podcast host myself. I host a podcast called Action Academy, and I've been doing that for 3 years. I started that show when I was working in corporate America at the same company that Jaren was talking about. It was a great job, and a lot of people are listening right now that have good enough jobs, and you're in that comfort zone, right? Where it's good enough. You listen to maybe 20 episodes of this or 200 episodes of this podcast, and you know everything that you need to do, and you're still not doing it. It's because you don't have enough pain yet. Misery creates movement. Pain creates progress. So there's either 1 or 2 things that you could do for everybody that's listening to this podcast to start investing in real estate, actually get off the couch and do the thing. And that is either you're going to wait for life to happen to you, or you're going to be proactive and you're going to make it happen. All right. So what I did is I looked at my boss's boss. I was just going as low and slow as I could, and I was just meandering about my financial freedom journey. I looked at my boss's boss, and I said, that's going to be me in 5 years. That was my VP of sales. Nothing against him as a man. I looked at the position. And I said, you're telling me that I make $250,000 right now, and that was after 4 years of working at this company, made it to the top, number 8 out of 5,079. You're telling me if I just work my tail off for the next 5 years, I'm going to have more calendar meetings, more Zoom calls, less freedom, less time with my family. You're going to parade me around the Southeast like a freaking show pony, and I'm just going to be eating donuts and freaking depression every day. And so that was when I knew it was time to plan my escape. And that's the first piece of advice I give to everybody listening to this is you already know what to do. And we'll talk about some strategies on here that work sometimes better than others, but look at your boss's boss. And then that's you in 5 years, best case scenario. And if you don't like that best case scenario, it's time to start planning your escape, which is what we're going to lead into now for the second part of the show, which is why you guys have me on. What I did is I started buying real estate. So I left between 2 different mediums. I left my job because I had to replace $20,000 a month, which is difficult. And that's what my business revolves around today, specifically helping people replace about $10,000 plus per month. So I had $4,000 coming in from residential co-living rentals that I was living in 1 per year, live in one part, rent the other rooms out, the traditional house hack method that we all know and love. And then I also started up a business on the back end of my podcast. And between those 2, we were able to replace that $15,000 to $20,000 that we needed. In March of 2022, I was able to leave that job and then do the next best thing, which is what everyone on the show wants to do, which is travel the world. So I went and traveled the world full time for 8 months. I lived in Greece. I lived in Europe. I lived in Brazil. I did what I wanted, when I wanted, with who I wanted. I was 27 years old. And then I just got freaking miserable. And then I'll pause there because there's a few different ways that we can unpack this. And then we'll pause and keep some suspense for the rest of the story later.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear why you got miserable. Man, you got miserable traveling around the world. That's what everybody wants to do their entire life. Why I want to jump back to something you said when you were talking about your time at the job, and you looked at what life would be like in 5 years. Like you can when you in the corporate world, you have that ability to see into the future based on what other people in those roles are doing. Why do you think people get so comfortable and almost trick themselves or brainwash themselves into believing that this is the only thing they can do? It's too risky to go try something else.
People prefer the hell that they know today instead of the heaven that's possible that they aren't certain of. You know, so it's the same reason that people stay in bad relationships, bad marriages, bad health habits, bad friendships. Same thing. You know, it's that hell that you know. It's the devil that you know. And so what people want most is security and confidence that each day is going to be the same, and that they know if I put in X, I get Y, right? And so for the people that are listening to this podcast, you've already made that first pivot. I'm hoping, because you're listening to this show, that you're already out of the matrix. You've already made the conscious decision to where you're like, I want something more for my life. And then for me, it started by asking bigger questions. I was just like, I'm too comfortable right now. You know, I make $250,000, which is great money. But I said, how do I make 500,000? And the answer was I couldn't. I was like, okay, well, how do I make $1 million a year? I was like, I couldn't. And then I was like, how do I make $5 million a year? And I said, I couldn't. So I was like, no matter what I do in this company, I can't do that. Now let's circle back, and I want to come to a very important point with money in general, because I think this is something that people can take away from this. There comes a certain point where money's not going to serve you anymore from a utilitarian standpoint. All right. You make enough money, that $10, $20, even $50,000 a month. Once you're making that, then it gets to different motivators. And so what you do is you go from me to we. And that could be through your family, supporting your wife, your husband, your kids. And then all of a sudden they're taken care of. Then it goes to your other community, and it goes to the extended community. So I had a mentor named Ben, and Ben gave me a really cool game to play. And it's the game of millions. So game number 1 is, how do you make $1 million in a year? Gross. All right. This is not cash flow. This is gross top line in a business, in real estate. How do you make $1 million? Game number 2, how do you net $1 million? So how do you take home $1 million after taxes? Game number 3, how do you build a team and pay them $1 million? How are you supporting a team and have them have $1 million? Game number 4 is, how do you comfortably give away $1 million a year? And that's an infinite game to play. So that's what lights my fire, dude. That's why money just keeps coming to me.
I love those 4 levels. And I think it's important for anybody listening who may not be at the level that Brian has gotten to in his mentality. And the same with me, because I feel like I'm in the same mindset as Brian. Before you can get to where you can bless others, where you can pay a team good money, where you can go and help people who need help, you have to do what Brian has done and what he said, and you have to learn to take care of yourself first. You've got to be able to increase your income, take care of your expenses, buy assets. And so some of y'all are thinking right now, bro, it was $250,000 a year not enough? I know I can hear people thinking it right now listening to this podcast. And I want to try to relate, because Brian has been there. And I've been there, and you can comment on this, Brian. I'll never forget when I first started working at the uniform company, even when I got into pharmaceutical sales after, I always just used to say, if I could just make $100,000 a year, I would have so much.
Life would change.
Life would change. And then if you're driven and you keep adding more value to the marketplace, then your income increases over time. And I got to where, we're making good money, $250,000 more some years. And I don't know how to describe it. other than your mindset just shifts. I think your eyes are open. So it's not like for some people it would be a greed thing. It definitely would. But I know you, I know your heart. I'm in a group chat with you. We're buddies. It's not I just want to make more money just to make more money. I think we find security.
It doesn't get the job done.
No, it doesn't. Money for us, bro, I know you. I watch your lifestyle. You're the same way as I. Money for me means I drove a 94 Jeep here with a stick shift. Like, I got money, but it doesn't, the material stuff doesn't do it. I think you find almost a security when you hit those larger incomes from doing good work in the marketplace. You're like, okay, I'm able to generate this amount of money. Like, I can hit this. That's good. I feel stable. I can provide for my family. I can provide for my life. Now, what am I actually passionate about? And how do I find a way to get into that world? And because of that, I've got a good chance of making more money, but I don't have to be fearful of losing it all. Because I think that's where people get. They just get so scared that if they don't have the safety net of a company or a position, that they're just going to lose it on. I would say that's not true. I would say look at the value you're able to offer in the marketplace, and then that allows you to go take risk. Because if the risk if it all fails, guess what? You still have value to go back to the marketplace and be at baseline where you were when you started.
Jaren, I'll tell people a phrase right now that I came up with that will change their life and hopefully help them overcome the fear, right? And then we'll give them an actionable strategy that they can use where if somebody's making $50,000 a year, $100,000, $150,000, $500,000 a year, we can give them something that they can take and actually use to build a real estate portfolio today in today's market. So the first and foremost, the phrase, and that is everyone's afraid. Fear never goes away. It just looks different. Different levels, different devils. And we all have this fear of failure, fear of the appearance of failure is what I more commonly and appropriately diagnose it as. But at the end of the day, the thing that got me to take the entrepreneurial leap was a mindset coach telling me, hey, man, you ever thought about the idea that you don't need to purely passive income your way out of the job? Like, you're probably going to want to work and do something. There's not any way. So I was like, I could combine passive and active income to hit financial freedom. All of a sudden, it became much more attainable to me. And the phrase that he said to me was, what is the worst case scenario possible? And I said that I fail and I go get another job. He goes, good. So your worst case scenario, your personal hell, is your present day reality.
That's
I was like, and since that, I was able to start moving. So that's out in the stratosphere. So hopefully that resonated with people. But I want to give a quick little nugget. That's something that I've used both in single family and now we've helped other people do in multifamily, mobile home parks, storage, and small businesses because we buy businesses as well. And it's the same framework, which is the money, knowledge, hustle framework. And I'm sure that you guys have probably talked about this on the podcast, but if somebody's listening to this and they don't have money today, or they're just starting out and they want to figure it out, there's what's called the deal triangle. And there's 3 parts that make up any transaction. And I can point tangibly to where I was each part of this triangle. And that's money, knowledge, and hustle. So in the very beginning, you have none of them, right? So the money is going to be the person that funds the deal. The knowledge is the person that has the intricate ideas and processes where they know how to find the deal, they know how to negotiate the deal, they know how to take it to the closing table, and they know how to manage the asset. So they have earned that knowledge. And then the last one is going to be hustle. So that's going to be the person that's making the cold calls, doing the door knocks, sending the mailers, driving for dollars, hoofing it at every local real estate event. So what you can all start with that's 100% free is hustle. All right? So when you start with hustle, the goal is to be able to get to whichever one of the 2 other parts of the triangle that you need to get to, that is your preference to make the deal happen. So you can either take that hustle, work your tail off in your job, make more money, or you can take that hustle and network with capital partners. Both of those get you to the money. Then you can take that hustle, you can apply it towards knowledge in 2 different ways because everyone's asking how to get mentors. You can either pay to play or seek to serve. All right? So what I did is I started with the money, and I paid for coaches. I paid for mentors. I paid the local house flippers to show me how to do it. I paid in my sweat equity and I paid in my cash. And I did it. And so I was able to accelerate that knowledge. So you need 2 of the 3 to pull off a transaction. And I'll pause there. But that, like, if you just take that framework, it makes things so much simpler. And I've seen $30 million deals done with that exact framework, that money, knowledge, hustle.
We'll be right back with Brian Luebben.
Are you worried about your financial security in these unprecedented times? If you are, the next minute could profoundly impact your financial security. Imagine waking up to find the economy has plunged and your portfolio has plummeted 30 to 45%, while banks are in turmoil, holding your money hostage while waiting for FDIC intervention. Where would you turn? For many, this may sound like fiction, but it's a stark reality for those that have money on the line. Recently, America's awoke to both the NASDAQ and the Dow, plummeting over 1,100 points each and triggering a frenzy of sell-offs. History shows us how a single event can crash the market, like the dot-com bubble of 1999, the subprime mortgage crisis of 2008, and the pandemic of 2020. But today, we're facing multiple bubbles: commercial real estate, stock, bonds, and banks. Combined with the relentless inflation, the threat of global recession, the specters of war, and you have the perfect storm. The consequences could be catastrophic, plunging us into unprecedented crisis. America is sliding in the age of discord, with trust in institutions collapsing and the democratic norms unraveling. The quality of life for Americans has declined. Wealth is concentrated among the rich, while the median American family income stagnates, creating a dangerously top-heavy social pyramid. Moreover, hostile countries like Russia, China, and Iran are working to destroy the U.S. dollar. Gold is a no-matter-what store of wealth that you need. That's why Robert has been such an advocate of gold, and he trusts Allegiance Gold. Allegiance Gold is ready to help you incorporate physical gold as part of your portfolio and protect it against economic uncertainty. Visit protectwithrobert.com today to learn how you can qualify for up to $5,000 in free silver with a qualifying investment. Or give them a call at 844-3-ROBERT. Remember to mention Robert and Kim sent you when you contact Allegiance Gold. Secure your IRA or 401k today with Allegiance Gold. Visit protectwithrobert.com or call 844-3-ROBERT.
Welcome back to the Rich Dad Real Estate Show, where we talk about the good news and bad news of real estate. I'm with Brian Luebben. So, Brian, we were talking about the 3 keys, the triangle you're talking about. You got money, knowledge, and hustle when it comes to creating success. You're breaking down, you need 2 out of 3 of those that are in your wheelhouse to go and have success.
100%. So like I said before, you start with hustle. So hustle is the one that's completely free. And in the beginning, it just depends how much your time is worth. So in the beginning, your time's not as worth much money, right? So that is where you put your sweat equity. And then it's that rocky cutscene that you can't avoid. So you go and you try to find up and ride in the wake, surf in the wake of somebody that's in your local real estate market that's just the freaking person doing the deals, and you find a way to add value to them. And you go and hustle your tail off and you work for them for free. And then that's how I started, and I got in the game just like you. And then eventually you learn some things and you earn some things, right? So today, what I do in my deals is I'm the capital. So in my community, I'm the person that funds deals, and I've earned that right over a period of 5 years. But now people are the hustle, and they bring the deal to me, and I help them negotiate it. And then I'm normally the person that funds the down payment. So it works in all different ways, and they get deals for free, because I'm the one that's covering it. So you get massive equity and cash flow if you negotiate it the right way.
And I think that's where you want to get. When you get to where you can be the money person and you can offer knowledge too, because oftentimes when you are the money person, not every time, but a lot of times if you're the money person, you probably got pretty good knowledge, because to have money, unless you inherited it, you figure some crap out along the way. And it's fun to be in that position because, number one, you've hustled for a really long time. And so you can scale back, and you don't really scale from what I've learned, and maybe you disagree. You don't necessarily scale back hustling. Like if you're driven, you're always going to be driven, but there's you don't feel, the nauseousness or am I going to be able to make ends meet anymore? Like you've reached the point of you're over the hump, so to say, from a hustle perspective, and you're able to go help other people get to those levels that you've already accomplished. It's like a boss in a video game. Like you've beat certain bosses at different levels and you know the code. So all these people who are starting here trying to beat these bosses you've already beat, you have the answer. You're like, bro, just let's partner together. I get some benefit from it. I'm going to teach you how to beat these bosses, and you're going to be able to get to where you want to go a lot faster than trying to go and do this on your own.
Dude, it's the cheat code. And I'll say this, when people like zoom out, because I try to think about how to explain really complicated concepts in like a very simplified manner. And one of the ones that I've been chewing on for a few months now is what business and what investing actually is, right? So what's the difference between somebody that's listening to this, that's buying a duplex versus buying a 20 unit versus buying a 200 unit versus buying a 2,000 unit, right? What's the difference? And what I've come down to, the conclusion is the stuff is the same. Air quotes, the stuff. Like there is still an acquisition process. Like all the things that you guys do are the same things that you do at scale. The only thing that changes is who does it and at what scale, right? So in the beginning, there's only a few parts to the deal funnel for any bit of real estate and any bit of business. So you have the lead flow. So what deals are coming across your desk, your underwriting process, which is how fast and how efficiently are you underwriting the properties that are coming in so that you're actually getting to them. Then it's the offer process. So what's your process to where you say yes or no to an offer and how fast can you move through there? Then you go to diligence and then the closing table. It's the same funnel for all of acquisition. And so what I've realized is it's that same funnel if you're buying a 2,000 unit versus buying a freaking 2 unit. It's the same process. So you still need to make the cold calls. You still need to send the mailers. You still need to underwrite the deals. The only thing that changes is now all of a sudden you're not the one that's underwriting the deals. You have somebody else, maybe an assistant that's doing it. Then you have a full-time team member that's doing it. So that's how scale happens, is you start learning how to manage other people. So that's a skill set that I'm working on right now, and I'm finally learning that. And that's where I'm finally finding the passivity that everyone's looking for.
Which is a very hard skill depending on your personality. And I think you're a
It's
lot
the
like me
hardest.
because we're traditionally good at sales, which usually means we're lone wolves. So in our mind, we're like, hey, and it's not like this is going to sound bad, but it's almost like we can do it better than anybody else. Let me just go do it. And so it's very hard.
The biggest downfall of business. Yeah, what got you here is not going to get you there.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, I'll tell everyone this, for the rookies that are listening, saying yes to everything and to everyone will get you to your million. Like just say yes, and just through sheer grit and determination, you'll make it to your first million. And then after that, it's saying no. So saying yes gets you there. Saying no is what takes you to scale, because now it's just like, in the beginning, you're thinking, I'm God's gift to entrepreneurship and real estate. And then afterwards, it's like you have to remove your ego and say, okay, I don't know anything. And you start partnering with people and you're like, wow, this is what excellence actually looks like. Crazy.
Yeah. There's always somebody who's doing way more than you. So don't think you're the greatest person in the world, because I got news for you. You're not. One thing that I think people who are on this journey to live a life like you've created for yourself, where you took action, and you can travel, you've done all these things, you built these businesses, you buy these businesses. I think this is a misconception. I want to tie this in somehow to how you were traveling the world and you got miserable. I believe that people go into this notion of something that I fought, that if I can just do enough, invest enough, hustle enough, if I get out of the rat race, then I don't have to work anymore. And now all I can do is just sit around and do whatever I want all day. And there's actually a verse in the Bible. It's in Proverbs. And it says, the soul of a lazy man desires and has nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made rich. And I believe, number one, if you don't work, you're miserable over time. And then number two, I believe if you've built up wealth even, and then you become lazy, there's a chance that starts to take a hit and your wealth starts to dwindle, because you're no longer toiling the soil. And so I wonder if that is able to compare to maybe what you felt after you were like, all right, I left corporate world, I'm traveling, I got money coming in, I can do whatever I want. And then you hit a point and you're like, dang, I need to go like toil some soil somewhere.
Toil some soil, baby.
Hashtag toil some soil.
Yeah. The point, and here's a writer downer for people. So the point of a goal is who you become throughout the accomplishment of the goal. It's who you become. It's not actually doing the goal. It's not actually hitting the cash flow. It's not actually hitting the millionaire status. It's not actually flipping your 100th house. It's who you become in the process. And that applies to all goals at all levels. So the irony is once you become financially free, which all of you guys want to that are listening to this podcast, you're not going to be able to be mentally free to just go lay on the beach and do nothing, because you've now become the type of person that has the skill sets and the drive and the integrity and the direction to be able to pull it off. And now you're a freaking entrepreneur and you're meant to go build some stuff. So real quick, I want to take people through like a very, very fast framework because we don't have that much time. And I want to hit what happens after you hit this framework, because when people think about things like this, it will make all of real estate investing so much more simple. So right now, people are listening and they're like, I want cash flow. And most importantly, they're like, I want $10,000 a month in cash flow. That's where everybody starts, like 95% of people. So what you actually do is you chunk down your cash flow numbers into 3 different sections. When you chunk it down into 3 different sections, the world opens up because things become way more achievable and you realize that your goals and your dream life is so much closer than you anticipated. So the 3 levels are survive, arrive, and thrive. These are levels that I came up with that we've ran hundreds of people through. Survive is how much money do you need to cover your fixed expenses? So your mortgage is paid, your rent's paid, you got food on the table, you're not going out to eat, but you can survive, you and your family. Arrive is now you have some discretionary spending, right? So you can get Amazon packages, you can go out to eat a few times, like nothing crazy. But thrive is your income is completely replaced. So for me, survive, arrive, and thrive is what made the financial freedom journey and real estate investing journey actually achievable for me and not so scary, because my survive was $4,000 a month, which I got purely from my real estate. My arrive was $6,500 a month, and my thrive was that $20,000 a month. All right. So once I hit that 20, I was already feeling comfortable from the other ones and already stockpiling my money. Then what happens afterwards is what Jaren was just talking about, which is now what? And my goal for this podcast and their goal also throughout the entire Rich Dad Network is to get you guys to that now what as soon as possible so that you can compound the rest of your freaking lives doing that now what. And that now what takes a bit of time to figure out. You have to start asking the questions of who the heck you are, what the heck you love, what you're great at, and what the market needs. The Japanese call it your ikigai. I call it your passionate income. So what happened for me was I was this winner. I was the sales rep. I hit financial freedom. I traveled and I was in Brazil and I realized I had absolutely soulless, meaningless purpose, like lack of purpose, lack of integrity, lack of fulfillment. And I needed to help other people. So that's what made me start up my new company. And I went from me to we, and I started helping other people do it too. So like that is just my thing. Other people open up a coffee shop. Other people start doing charities. It's whatever your thing is. But that's what I call passionate income. And that's the goal for everyone to get to.
Yeah. And it's a great place when that mindset is able to shift and you go from me to we, because it opens up the way you view the world in a totally different way. Like I look at it so differently than I did when I was at that survive and arrive. And the survive state can last a little bit. It takes a little bit of time depending on.
It's the hardest.
Yeah.
It's the hardest.
No doubt. 100%. And it depends on your journey. Like, are you single? Do you have kids? Do you have a ton of debt? I mean, that survive can be one that you have to crawl out of. But I think the key is keeping your eyes on arrive and thrive, knowing that they are there. The problem is with most people is they stop, they quit before they ever get out of survive. And then they just succumb to the middle-class lifestyle, burdened by debt, staying in the same job that they hate, and they just give up because they think it's not attainable. Well, it is. It just is sometimes hard.
They never took the time to define it. So guys, you know what's the hardest goal to hit? One you haven't defined.
Wow.
You don't know where you're going. It's really easy to get lost. So most people don't even know what their numbers are. They just pull $10,000 out of thin air and they think that that's their financial freedom number. But what happens next is they get really, really terrified because they're like, wow, that's a lot of cash flow. If I do $200 per rental, that's 50 rentals. How do I do that? So then that goes into a whole other conversation, which we don't have time for, which is choosing your asset class. And that's, are you choosing commercial, single family? Are you buying businesses, whatever have you? But then that's what you use to make your decisions is, how fast are you going and so where are you going and how fast?
Yeah, you got to know where you're going. What gets measured gets managed. I mean, it's like if you're trying to lose weight, if you're not stepping on a scale every day, How do you know? If you don't set a target goal of weight that you want to get to, you're never going to get there. The same is true for anything in life. And what's the statistic? Do you know it, of when you actually write down a goal, the likelihood of it increasing that you hit it? It's like a ridiculous number.
It's like 60%, and it increases to like 85% or something if you share it with other people.
Crazy. That's with the people we work with, and that y'all do stuff like this all the time too in your world. We have goal setting, like retreats and meetings.
Retreats, yeah.
Because we believe so much in it. If you do not have a target, how important have assets been on your journey? Like just assets in general, from the real estate side, you can talk about that. And obviously I know you have businesses as well.
I don't really care about them at all. Like for me, it's just a game. Like in the beginning, you do it to just get out of the race and start playing the new game, which is, you know, what Kiyosaki talks about, escaping the rat race. And now you start to play different games. And so for me, it's just like the real estate, the businesses, all of it's just a little scoreboard that it's a game that we're all playing. And at the end of the day, like, I think that it's a worthwhile game to play, but I think the most important asset that you have is you, like yourself, your integrity, and your relationships. So it never goes away. Is if you lose your real estate, if you lose your businesses, like you still have kept your knowledge. You've become that person that is able and capable to get those, and you kept the relationships. Hopefully, if you moved it with integrity in business, you kept the relationships around there too, so you can easily pop back up. So for me, my most important asset are my relationships that I've made along the way, to where I could call somebody and I'm like, hey, I need to get this person on the phone, and then we make it happen. So I would be very intentional about that at every single stage of the journey for people listening.
Dude, I say this every podcast. People who listen to this podcast regularly, they're going to start making fun of me. But there are two key ingredients that I hear from every person that I interview who's successful, which everybody that I interview on this show is very successful. Whether they say it in this exact way or not, number one is networking. Like you said, the relationships that you built are one of the most powerful things you've done in your entire life. And number two is delayed gratification, which we talked about, the survive, arrive, and thrive. Literally, those are the same things. And I know you've interviewed thousands of people as well. And I'd love to hear your take on it. But that seems to be that secret sauce. Put yourself around people who are already where you want to go. And then understand that there is going to be some delay before you get to where you actually want to go.
Always, man, and always. And so I'll say this in closing, guys. The most important thing that you can do, I want to live a big life. I do live a big life. I want the nice apartment. I've got this panorama view of Austin, Texas right now. And what I do to live that big life is I delayed that gratification for years, living in the basement of my rental properties. And I waited until that passive income is what was able to fuel the luxury that I wanted. And now I have passive distributions that are able to buy the car I want, buy the apartment that I want, fund the life that I want and the travel that I want. So just keep your heads down, get clear about what you want, get in the right rooms, and you guys will be just fine.
Brian, thank you for coming on the show today. If folks want to get in touch with you, learn more about your coaching, read your book, listen to your podcast, where's the best place for them to find you?
They can reach me at Action Academy Podcast. We do a daily show Monday through Friday. We interview millionaires, billionaires. We talk about commercial real estate and small businesses, specifically on how to replace about $20,000 plus in passive income and cash flow per month. Or you can reach me at Brian Luebben, just my name, on Instagram or anywhere else. I'm pretty easy to find.
Brian, thanks for coming on, man. This was a blast. You did fantastic, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you for tuning into the Rich Dad Real Estate Show today, where we talked about the good news and bad news of real estate with Brian Luebben. If you're listening on a podcast platform, go and leave us a 5-star review. And if you're on YouTube, like this video, share it with somebody. It helps us get the good news about financial freedom and real estate investing out to the world. I'm your host, Jaren Sustar. I'll see you next week.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.